Is it working okay?
Hello, lovely lionesses. Thank you so much for joining us today. I am Narissa Sue, your leadership and legacy coach, and today we'll be chatting with the amazing LJ Johnson. And she is a women's hormone coach who specializes in endometriosis, PCOS, and fibroids. And LJ has worked in the health, fitness, and women's hormone industry for over 20 years. Her passion for all things women's health stems from her own personal healing journey, including the diagnosis of endometriosis, which unfortunately took her 16 years. LJ has healed herself naturally of asthma, allergies, chronic sinus infections, eczema, and other autoimmune conditions. And LJ's true passion is really to empower, motivate, and educate others so that they too can have the quality of life despite their symptoms or their diagnosis. So, welcome, LJ. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I know listening to all of that, I'm like, oh yeah, that's me. That's me. That is me. It's so funny listening to it. Yes.
And you're amazing. And thank you so much for bringing your beautiful energy on the show today.
Thank you for having me, Narissa. I'm honored. I'm always empowered and honored to share my story, right? That's what it's all about. Not just sharing when you get to the top of the mountain, but how you got up there, right? Like that's the sweet spot is the story.
That's really where all the magic is, for sure. Because I think so many of us see this Instagram picture of success and we see everybody holding awards and just having a fabulous time, but we don't hear about all the hard work and the perseverance, the resilience it takes to get where you are sitting in that seat serving women in your capacity. So I'm excited to learn more about your story today.
Absolutely.
And I would so excited to have you on the show because this topic is so near and dear to me as somebody who has had fibroids myself, and I also had endometriosis. And I did not get to heal it in a holistic pathway. I went the modern medicine way, which is really painful. I had surgeries and all kinds of different things. And so I was really excited to learn more about some of the holistic ways that women can heal themselves. And you're also going to share with us a little bit about balancing hormones. Your Instagram, and I did see your Instagram is packed full of amazing tips. You guys got to check her out, her Instagram, which I'll drop in the show notes later. But yeah, so we just wanted to ask you a little bit or to share a little bit more about who you serve and how you serve them.
Yes. Who do I serve? Who am I? What am I? And why am I in your womb all this business, right? What qualifies me? I have been doing this for a very long time, but to be honest, my story stemmed or my journey stemmed from my own struggles, right? Like you said, we like to see Instagram where everything's picture perfect and we're like, we made it, we're here. And everyone's like, hey, what about how do I get there? How do I get there? So I'm the girl that tells you how to get there. It took me 16 years to get diagnosed with endometriosis. And the turning point for me is when I felt like as a health professional, not just as a fitness instructor, but a women's hormone coach, I'm feeling like I've got this education. Everything should be going right for me, right? But it's those humbling moments of, as you say, you see me here today, makeup on, hair up in a crazy bun, but like I'm here, I'm present, right? I can talk, I can walk.
And looking radiant. You look radiant.
Like I'm shining and glowing. But let's talk about those times your girl was not shining and glowing, right? Those times where endometriosis, and I know, as a fibroid warrior, endometriosis, that you did get to show up like this. Your job wanted you to show up like this. You knew this is what you needed to show up as, but you were feeling defeated. You were exhausted. You had no energy. I mean, women, let's go. It may be a little TMI, but there is nothing sexy about having painful periods and being on the couch, not just for 2 or 3 days, but I was missing weeks of my life, right? It got to where, I joke about it and I always look back. I would mark the PMS week on my calendar. And basically PMS week meant I couldn't teach any classes, as a fitness instructor, as a fitness manager, I couldn't travel. I definitely couldn't shoot an international video with perfect form showing all other instructors over the world, right? Because if my form was bad, then they'd all be doing the weird, whatever. So it's like my body had to show up and show out daily. And it got to where I couldn't, right? PMS week was like a week I couldn't. So my employer's like, okay, we'll put up with you, having your girl moment, once a month. But then that girl moment turned into where I couldn't show up the week before my period, couldn't show up the week of my period. Next, it's like, okay, we love you, LJ. You're high energy. We'll take you 2 weeks out of 4. Then it got to where everyday chronic pelvic pain, to where I remember a job I fought for. I worked my butt off, right? Like, I'm talking about when you work your way up.
You're
The hustle,
hustling
you work,
it.
I know,
Yes.
you work from one and you work to another, and it's like you finally get to the top and you're like, I made it. And then it's like, oh my gosh, I was in tears. I had to go back in, give the job back. Good, great 6-figure, 7-figure job. I couldn't do it, right? And it's very humbling because they're like, I thought you wanted this. You worked so hard. You've been invested in the company, not invented. You've been invested in the company, doing all these things. And then you're like, I can't even show up and do this job. How do you explain that your cycle, your menstrual health, your period, which people think you can just take an ibuprofen and keep pushing, that you're not a strong woman? Explaining to them, like, on my cycle, there's days I'm crawling to the bathroom, like I can't even walk, right? So how can I be shooting videos and traveling the world? I mean, how can I continue to tell people about women's hormones when my own hormones, right? It's like the weight loss coach that's like, has to admit, and I've actually heard someone recently say she was encouraging everyone else to do the things, but she couldn't even get those own wins in her life. And so for me, that's where my journey started. Everything I was telling people was working. And then all of a sudden I hit this brick wall where none of that crap was working anymore, right? I didn't even feel authentic. I didn't feel truthful showing up at conferences and telling you the 7 steps to whatever, knowing in mind that I'm standing there in pain. The 7 steps aren't working for me and they're not working for my clients anymore. So for me, it was very humbling. I mean, I had to step down, not just because of physical things, but I had to step down from a lot of positions because what they wanted me to sell and what they wanted me to say, it was no longer working. I was living proof, right? There's nothing more humbling, I just told this story, than showing up to a conference and someone asking you how far along you are. And you're like, honey, I don't have a man and I'm not even pregnant, but I'm so bloated. I'm so inflamed. Right. People are like, how far along? You're like, this is just.
I'm like, that should be on the list of things you never say to a woman,
gosh,
even if she looks 9 months pregnant.
Right. If you only take one note from this podcast, we never ask people how far along they are.
Never.
They are, that's like a throat punch Thursday. It just doesn't sit right. Your little feelings are crushed. But I had to deal with that, still get on stage, put on this big smile with this big tummy, which is bloated with endo and pain and inflammation. And so that's when I was just like, okay, here's the deal. What I'm selling isn't working. I have to make a change. Like, my health was deteriorating. So yes, I'm happy for these days where I'm pain-free. Pelvic pain is no longer, part of my world, but for so many years, it didn't just steal my, career and finances, but it was stealing happiness. Like, it was changing my world, which is my long and short answer of why I'm so passionate about what I do right now.
And ultimately, it's hard to be in that pain and be able to feel joy and to have room or energy to do anything else, because pain is so draining, right?
Absolutely. You wake up and your battery your neighbor's battery, she's recharged because she slept for 8 hours. You wake up after 8 hours of sleep and you don't even feel like you slept. You tossed and turned. You're not dreaming. Like, you're not even getting that deep restorative sleep. You wake up and you're literally exhausted. Like, that is what it feels like to always be exhausted. No amount of coffee or Starbucks or green, coffee, tea beans, and all these little tricks that people put out there, like, none of it works for you. Like, that is what it's like to be fighting, endometriosis and chronic illnesses, autoimmune issues as well.
And it sounds like it's kind of all might be linked together. So what are some of the things that you did to help you get well? Because it sounds like you got to that pinnacle moment where it sounds like even your integrity was tested and you were like, no, I'm not doing this. I'm going to figure it out and come back. So what are some things that you can share with us? No, that's amazing. I love that.
It's the integrity part. I've never thought of it that way, but it was like, I felt like I was a fraud. I was showing up and I was a fraud. But what I had to do, first thing, was a mindset shift. And I know people are like, we don't want to hear that. That's too woo-woo. I'm telling you, baby girl, sometimes you're going to have to tap into the woo-woo to get them results, right? Like, the woo-woo is where it's at. This is what I will say. Side note, if you feel like you're doing everything, you're doing the right exercises, you're doing the right food, and you just can't get a breakthrough in your health, that's when you got to tap into the spiritual. So for me,
Mm-hmm.
it was a mindset shift, not just a spiritual mindset shift, but the mindset shift of if I eat healthy and clean, I'm going to be healthy. If I'm vegetarian, if I'm vegan, if I'm keto, if I grab this food label and I join this club and we're all pescatarian, we're all this, that my health is going to be, you know, Skittles and rainbows and everything's going to be amazing. So it was a huge mindset shift for me. I was a clean eater. I was a fitness instructor. I'm a nutritionist. It wasn't like I didn't know what to eat. I knew not to do processed foods, things like that. But what I will say is clean eating for you who's watching this and clean eating for me, someone that has a hormonal imbalance, is totally different. There are certain foods that may work for you. Maybe you can have brown rice and chicken breast and feel amazing. For me, brown rice wasn't working for me, especially because just in good old America, we're getting GMO rice. It's not even the real deal. When I lived in Japan, I could eat rice and I was fine, right? It was totally fine. I had soy over there. I mean, I'm not a big proponent of soy, but it was pure. I could go, I lived over there 3 or 4 years, Japan, Korea. Lots of things I could eat over there. I come back here and just the chemicals. So a big thing for me was the mindset shift of what's clean eating for one person is not going to be the same clean eating for me. And once again, I would preach that. I travel the world telling people, you know, clean eating is this, clean eating is that, da, da, da. And then it's like, for me, I was like, okay, I have to have my broccoli and my 6 ounces of chicken breast and eat 6 times a day. And so I had to really drop that mindset because it wasn't serving me. It wasn't working for me. Also, you know, for those who are really into the blood type diet, I started finding that chicken's not even appropriate for my blood type. And so probably why I wasn't getting these kick butt results than everyone else. I'm like, because I'm eating the chicken and the broccoli and the asparagus. Like, why am I not feeling amazing? And so the first thing I would say is just changing the mindset of this clean eating and grabbing this title of keto, you know, pescatarian, whatever title it is. We grab these titles, we grab these crowns, and we lock and load. And we're like, for me, I was keto for a very long time. That was a big part of my healing journey. Now, as I progressed, I have taken myself out of ketosis and I'm adding other healing ones. So what I'm saying is, I'm not saying don't dedicate yourself to nutrition, but be fluid. Know that as your healing journey changes, you will need to change and evolve. So I had to change my mindset around food. Another thing, as a fitness instructor and a fitness enthusiast, right over here on the other side of my office, which you can't see, I've got like my spin bike and my treadmill desk. Like, I love to be active, but here's the deal. Once again, that old mindset of over exercise, under eat gives you the slim, thick body, right? Like, I'll have that perfect body if I cut down to 1,200 calories, but I'm going to go to Zumba not once a day, but twice a day. And I'm going to over exercise, blah, blah, blah. And the whole like burn more calories. No, that was number 2 for me. I was over exercising, not just in my personal exercise, but I was over teaching. I was running around, you know, teaching 6-7 hours a day, doing these trainings every weekend, you know, 8 hours, 24 hours, you know, 3-day trainings for body pump. And it's like lifting weights for 8. It was just too much.
Just burning yourself out.
It is. And I know some of you are thinking
your
now,
poor adrenals.
Exactly. And I know some of you are thinking now, like, hold it, but I thought I need to exercise more to lose this tummy. And it's like, no, exercise and nutrition are important, but it's all in moderation. And what happens is usually we're all gung ho with the nutrition and we're like, screw the fitness, or we're all over exercising. We're like, I can have pizza. I went to a 90-minute Zumba class, glow in the dark. I had so much fun. I can have pizza after. And it's like, maybe not so much, right? So for me, I had to change the mindset on the food and then the mindset on the fitness. I was over exercising, undernourishing my body. And then the other big thing I would say is I was so focused on bringing the right foods into my body. I never really stopped and thought, what am I doing to detoxify my body? I had that old mindset of, I'm detoxing, let me get some detox tea. I'm detox teaing and that's what I'm going to do. And I started to learn that the detox tea really wasn't detoxifying. You know, maybe I pooped a little more, maybe it got my bowels going, whatever. I don't know how explicit we get here. You know, maybe the bowels got going.
I'm like, girl, just give it to us straight.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm gonna give it to you straight. Like, maybe the bowels got going, but it's like, okay, yeah, I lost 2 or 3 pounds, but that wasn't really detoxing my body. Basically, I was sipping on diuretics, you know, getting these baby wins, and then having this endometriosis flare. So like I said, number 1, the mindset around the food. The eating clean for some people is not the same eating clean when you're managing asthma, allergies, you know, inflammatory things. Also remembering that, a side note, endometriosis is not a reproductive disease. It does cause pain in the pelvic area, but it is a chronic systemic inflammation throughout your entire body, right?
Ooh,
so changing that mindset around the food. Yes, chronic systemic inflammation. So when you're having that joint pain, those headaches, all that, that's part of the endometriosis. So changing the mindset around the food.
And what about fibroids, just out of curiosity?
So fibroids is not chronic systemic inflammation throughout the body, but here's the thing: fibroids and endometriosis, some people have both diagnoses. Fibroids are more on those detox pathways. Your body is wrapping hormones and toxins and creating those non-cancerous tumors, right? That can be inside of the uterus or outside of the uterus. So I had to change the mindset on the food, change the mindset on the exercise. I was over exercising. And then also I just had to not even change my mindset. I had to like grow my mindset to yes, we put the healthy stuff in, but I need to make sure I'm detoxing my body to let the toxins out. There's toxins in our water. You know, for anyone, I'm very open. I have had to take pharmaceuticals. I still take a couple pharmaceuticals, and I do still consider myself very much holistic because that is part of my healing journey, right? So sometimes you have to bring those in, but they do work a number, like you said, on your adrenals, your kidneys, your liver, all of those things. So once you kind of get those three things, for me, those were the three big takeaways for me, because I had scheduled my hysterectomy for endometriosis. I didn't feel like I had any other options, and I was able to make some drastic changes. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say it was easy, and I just started slipping lemon water and it turned my endo around. Like, baby, if it was that easy, we'd all be doing it. I had to do a little more work. And so that's why I really do a lot of hand holding with my clients, because some people are going to need more than that. You know, I do these 90-minute sessions where we just go hard for 90 minutes, but sometimes you're going to need a little bit more. I mean, my journey was not a 90-minute journey, right? It took me 16 years to get diagnosed. And that was a lot going on with my body. And the longer it took for me to get diagnosed, the more and more issues I had, because my hormones were just going crazy.
Yeah, and also the what you're explaining is very customized. It sounds like what you're telling everybody, for all the women that are listening, is that it's not a cookie cutter. It's not a cookie cutter. Cookie cutter.
I know. It's like the stage. We're tongue tied. We're so excited we get tongue tied.
We're so excited. It's not coming out. It's not rolling off the tongue just like I'd like it to. But yeah, it's not a cookie cutter experience, that you really need to meet with somebody like yourself who can really refine the diet, and so you can optimize your health.
Right. And that's why you have to work with someone. I think correct me wrong, probably we met on Clubhouse, right?
Yes.
Which I love, right? You get so much information, but here's the deal. We always tell you don't trust Dr. Google, and and I want you to trust what we're saying, but you have to remember that this comes from years of experience, right? We just didn't pop out of the womb. I mean, let's be honest. If I had all the answers, I would have diagnosed endometriosis back when I was 14 years old and would have never had an issue, right? So it's a learning journey, and you need that support. I always tell people you can absolutely do it on your own. I know, especially if women of color, we're like, we got this, we're strong, we're on top of it. Yes, we're strong, we're on top of it, but sometimes we need that additional support, right? So that's where I come in and really walk my clients through the process, right? Because some people are like, okay, LJ decided to detox my body. Yeah, but we got to optimize the bowels. I mean, let's be honest. If you're not having 2 to 3 bowel movements a day, that's like ground zero foundation for anything. How can you detox your body if your bowels aren't even pushing out the food that you're taking in? You know, how can you heal your body and dissolve fibroids and really, get your inflammation under control if your body isn't even doing the basics? I mean, some of you, I'm gonna call you out. You just not at Starbucks. You ain't even drinking water, right? Like, real talk. You're like, water? That's not for me. Not who that? Yeah, and it's like, well.
No, we need to drink gallons of water. Yes.
It's huge, right? But you had to get to a point to where you're like, the gallons of water are helping me, right? Even if you have to bring in surgery. Sometimes surgeries and pharmaceuticals are part of your journey. But I work really closely with a couple surgeons, and they send people to me before the surgery, because just going in for the surgery and still being inflamed, that's not going to do you any good. You're going to go into the surgery super inflamed. That's going to be more scar tissue when you're done. You're probably going to be in a lot of pain. Then you're not going to want to do your physical therapy. You're not going to want to do all these things that you need to do. So the inflammation, I mean, I don't know. One takeaway is definitely you want to be pooping 2-3 times a day. You need to get your gallons of water, like my girl Narissa said. But I mean, you have got to get the chronic inflammation down. And that really comes to nutrition. When I say fitness, it doesn't. I know I mentioned Zumba and fun classes. Fitness could be walking at the park with your dog for 20 minutes. Fitness could be on the phone talking to your girlfriend on FaceTime and walking.
Yes, it's just getting that movement in. It's just movement. Correct. Just move your body, ladies. Move your body.
And I know as women, we think about that kick butt workout that we used to do, level 10 on the Stairmaster, and you're like, and it's like, okay, girl, you used to do level 10. Right now, level 10 would put you in your grave. Slow the heck down, or get off the truck, get off of the Stairmaster. Like, it's your own mind that has you in this comparison. Get off the Stairmaster. It's probably not even good for your knees. You're not even doing it properly. Find something else to move. And then as you get stronger, I think that's the part is we want to start right here. We want to go back. Oh, I used to work out. I ran 10 miles. Why would you try to run 10 miles when you haven't ran in 10 years? I'm not calling you out.
Be gentle with your body. My goodness.
Walk, right? Start walking. If you feel kicked by the hips one day, exactly. Start swimming. Do Pilates, do yoga. It's once again, like I said, I'm calling myself out because it's a mindset shift, right? As your body matures, so does your healing journey. So those are huge, huge parts for me. And like you said, as yourself, like adding the water, adding those things in, I know we're part of your healing journey, right? But you have to learn like what works for you. But water, I'm going to be honest, water pretty much works for everyone, right? I think we all
it does.
Water.
It's one of those human needs. Like every single one of us needs the water.
Yes.
So
absolutely.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of that. There's so much great info in there. And I love to shift gears because I know you talked a little bit about support. And one of the questions I love to ask female entrepreneurs that are really successful is, what are you working on personally right now that will allow you to serve your clients in bigger and better ways?
I know, right? She's calling me out, and I'm okay. All right, Narissa's coming from my throat on this one, but I am ready for it.
No, it's all love. It's all love.
Oh, I know.
This is where we all learn.
It is, but it's sometimes you're like, oh, yeah, this is a little personal. For me, I am working on letting go and outsourcing. Right? I can do all the behind the scenes. I can do the social media. I can do the TikToks. I can do that. But sometimes you need some help, right? I love the coaching, the mentoring, the empowerment. I don't love writing emails. I don't love, okay, maybe I like Instagram. I don't love it. I love doing the reels, dancing around, having fun, but all the other behind the scenes. So for me to be more successful, and I'm literally talking real talk, what I'm dealing with right now, for me to scale my business to the next level, I had to hire more VAs. I had to bring in more sources, more resources, because once again, doing it all on your own, burning the candle at both ends, it's going to burn out. It's going to burn out. And we all know what burnout looks like. For me personally, burnout always resolves or, becomes a health issue, a physical issue. I start feeling it physically. Mentally, I can keep pushing through, right? I'm type A. I'm like, we're going. We're not stopping. But for me, my body, my battery, it's like me not charging my iPhone, waking up with a 2% battery, knowing that I've got 10 patients. And I'm like, how do I pour into 10 people? How do I do 10, 45-minute, 1 hour, 90-minute sessions on 2% battery? Yeah, iPhone.
You can't. Yeah, you cannot.
Halfway through,
I think it's that whole premise of serve from the saucer, not the cup, right?
Thank
so we
you.
got to keep that cup full.
I love that analogy. Yeah, it is. And so for me, I found that I had to bring people in to help me. The second thing I would say I'm really working on is self-care, making sure I take care of myself, because how can I show up and be 110%? How can I show up, give that LJ energy if I'm tired, if I'm exhausted, if I'm, I'm feeling toxic, if I'm around toxic people, right? So I think it goes both ways. But the biggest things I'm working on right now, I love this question, is outsourcing, bringing in more VAs, bringing in people so that they can do the things I don't really love and enjoy. And they're not my talent and they're amazing at it. I'm letting them excel in that. And then I'm sticking with my wheelhouse, which is the empowering, the motivating, and the coaching. Like, that is what I love. So that's been the biggest shift for me. And then just the self-care, like knowing when it's time to power that baby off, turn the phone off, turn off all.
I think that's so huge. Like you just said it, like being a type A woman, we will run ourselves into the ground. We'd be like, we'll ignore all the body signs. Our body's throwing up signals like, screaming, rest girl. And
we're like, no, tomorrow, next weekend. Oh, no, another project next weekend. Oh, now I got a summit. Oh, next. And before you know, next weekend. What happens for me next weekend, if I don't get on it, then it's like I'm down for 6 weeks. I'm down for 7 weeks. No.
And you go down hard.
I'd be taking those little baby breaks, keeping the little cup full, sip a little out, then just be knocked on my butt for 6 weeks, because then that's even the worst. It's harder to come back from. I mean, if you think you're behind now and you're working 6, 7 days a week, baby, you really gonna be behind after 6 or 7 weeks.
I don't think anybody can afford to be down for 6 weeks. I mean, especially in this pandemic economy, like we've got to be on our A game for sure.
Right. That's money left on the table that you may not be able to go back and get. So it's a big thing as an entrepreneur.
I love that. Well, how do you stay inspired and maintain your clarity for what you do? What are some things? I know you mentioned self-care. So what are some of those big things that keep you inspired and clear?
You got some good questions. Inspiration. I would say for me, I love when my clients are getting wins. When I wake up to those text messages of like, oh my God, LJ, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, that fills my cup. Like giving, I love it. But when people are getting results, even for myself, I'm results driven. I'm not doing anything that's not bringing results. Like I need to be, I mean, it doesn't have to be immediate, but I need to see that we're heading in the right direction. So being results driven, and just when my clients are winning, like that almost brings me to tears. Like that fills my cup, because I know what it's like to be on the couch, to not be able to go into work, to get rode up because you're calling out all the time. Like, how do you explain? Because everyone's else like, I have a beard and I'm fine. I'm like, well, mines are more debilitating. Like I can't walk, I can't talk, I can't do that. It's like, what? So I think when they're getting those wins, like that inspires me. And there's so many women, just basic menstrual health, basic women's health, just all these misconceptions, things that people are just like, oh, that's just how it's going to be. And I'm like my goal is to be like, no, this is not how it's supposed to be. It may be something we all have accepted, but it doesn't have to be our plight. It does not have to be how we live our lives.
I love that. I think we get far too complacent and just used to working around stuff instead of actually finding real solutions for things. And I love,
and we move on. But then I heard the analogy is like, can you put a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound? And I'm like, well, I've never had a gunshot wound, but from what I've learned, that would not
probably would not work.
Right. We would need to get to the root of the problem, maybe remove the bullet. We may have to have a certain, like I'm just like the whole Band-Aid.
Like stop the bleeding, like stop the bleeding.
But it's like, it doesn't really stop what's going on inside. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I have absolutely loved our conversation.
Me too.
And your radiant energy. Thank you for bringing the fire today, and
you're welcome,
for sharing all this wonderful goodness with our listeners. What's the best way for the ladies to contact you after this?
Contact me. Well, I may be in those clubhouse hallways a little bit, just a tiny bit.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I love listening to her speak in Clubhouse. By the way, ladies, find her in Clubhouse.
Yes, so you can find me on Clubhouse. My website, ljspowerhouse.org. You can book a free 15-minute discovery call. It talks about most of my services on there. I do. This is airing today, correct? I think we said. So I do have a masterclass coming up on November 14th. So you can plug in with that. You can DM me the word masterclass. I'm getting those pages and everything ready. But my website would be the best place. My Instagram as well. You get to see me dance around with my beautiful wall and have fun. But I'm dancing and giving you gems, right? I'm not the best dancer. So please know the talent really isn't the dancing. The talent are the gems that I'm dropping.
And it's all about the joy. It's all about the joy. We don't get to judge the dancing.
Yeah. So ljspowerhouse.org is my website. LJS_powerhouse. And I'm sure my girl Narissa is going to hook you up with all the links. So Instagram, my website, if you want to learn more about me and just whether or not you're like, I think she's onto something, well, come listen on Clubhouse. We talk. I've got an amazing club on there, a lot of great moderators that I team up with. So I'm kind of all over. I do live here in Arizona now. So if you're local and you want to get together, I've got some message from my locals and I'm like, absolutely. Like, let's connect. I'd love to connect with you.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. Well,
thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Yes, of course. And ladies, if you've been listening to the end of this, we really, really appreciate you. And we want to invite you to join us right now backstage in the VIP Facebook group for a quick chat with LJ. And we're going to talk about female hormones and aging gracefully here. So if you want to join us right over there, we're going to be in there in just a few moments. So find the Lioness Entrepreneurs and Business Leaders Uncaged Facebook group right now, and we'll see you over there. And until next time, live in gratitude and be light. Thanks again, ladies. Bye for now.